Hello, welcome to the joint cross-post podcast of Pirate Soldier King and
Near Death to Life.
this is Jerome Green.
Yeah, this is Gregory Roberts.
And we're going to have a conversation today about transformation and pretty much just about how pretty profound experiences changed our lives. And I'm really excited to have you here and be with you. And thank you really for the invite. This is a treat for me.
Oh, it is for me too, and thanks for hosting. And there's a really funny part about all this is that we met on a podcast program that we did with the Seven Figure Podcast.
Yes.
And that's online. And
We met digitally.
Yeah. And so we're meeting and we're talking, and CJ said, "Hey, you guys need to connect with this guy because you talked about your story. Tell them a little bit about your story."
Oh, yeah. Well, really quick, but Jerome, like as soon as our mentor said, you guys should connect, you were on it like that.
Yeah.
And I really honor and admire men of action. So, and ironically, this is a nationwide call, but you texted me, and we, we're both the same area code, and it turns out we're like 2 miles from each other. So here we are face to face, which is, I feel, is like 10 times better than Zoom.
Yeah, actually, yeah. All the podcasts I've done so far have been, sort of streaming. Mm-hmm. And this one is live, my first one live, so I'm really excited. But I was really surprised to find out when I reached out to you that you lived in Santa Monica and I lived in Mar Vista. And
yeah.
we were literally 2.4 miles away.
There it is.
So that's great.
We made it here together today.
Yeah.
So, Jerome, your podcast is Near Death to Life.
Yes.
And you had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with that. So please, what's up?
Wow, man. So, about over a year ago, I went in for a routine, my annual physical. So April of 2024.
Okay.
So my blood came back where my measurements were a little high. And so my doctor said, why don't you go see a urologist and let's check this out. So the urologist said, okay, did a physical test, said, I don't feel any problems. It may be a little bit enlarged, but I'd like you to go in and take a scan.
Okay. Like a CT scan and MRI?
MRI. So along the way, everybody said, hey, have you had an MRI before? I go, yeah. Have you had an MRI?
Yeah, most of us have.
Yeah.
You go in that big tube thing and...
But no one asked me if I had an MRI with a scan, with a dye.
Oh, with contrast.
Contrast,
right?
Yeah. So gadolinium. So gadolinium is a contrast dye that certain people are allergic to.
Uh-oh.
I'm one of those people. Did not know it. So I'm in the machine, and I'm getting the things going on, and it's funny, my wife's cousin had been to the house a week earlier, and she talked about how she attended this event where all noise is music. So I'm in the machine, and I'm listening to the knocking, doom, 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 doom.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, good music. And then I'm visualizing playing golf. So that's how I was kind of dealing with being in this capsule. And then all of a sudden, I heard...
So you're in a good place.
I'm in a great place. So no, this is cool.
Music, golf.
Yes, and so the only thing that can come out of this positively if I don't have cancer.
Right.
So I'm going, okay.
Win-win.
So then the tech mumbles something. I said, what did you say? And then all of a sudden I hear this.
What's that?
What was that? All of a sudden I start getting really warmer, hotter. Then I started shaking.
Oh.
And I yelled to the tech, I need to come out. I need to come out.
Yeah.
She goes, you only have 2 more minutes. You only have 2 more
Oh,
minutes.
no, she's just stick it out. You can do it.
And I'm going, no, I don't. I'm not going to make it. So she pulls me out. She yells, you only had 1 minute left. The next thing I hear was, call 911.
Whoa.
From another voice.
Whoa.
And the next thing I know is I'm being rolled into the emergency room. What happened between...
Wait a second.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of that...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So in the middle of that, the 13 to 15 minutes, I was gone. I was totally. They were doing CPR.
When you say gone, you went somewhere,
I
right?
was somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Where'd you go?
I went to some place called the Void.
Okay.
So I did some work with a shaman, a friend of mine. He's a shaman. He's also an executive coach, leadership coach, and he explained this void to me. So the place I went was very, very dark, the darkest place I've ever been in my life. But it was very peaceful. It was very calming. It was very relaxing.
Was it quiet?
Very quiet. So I didn't see the light. I didn't visit my parents who were well passed on. All I was in was in this dark, blackest black space I've ever been in that didn't feel at all threatening.
So just peace and nothing.
Peace and nothing.
That sounds like Buddhism.
Yeah, that peace and nothing.
Okay.
So that's where I was for 12 to 15 minutes. And
Could you talk?
no. So I later found out they were administering all sorts of drugs to me to kind of bring me back, doing CPR. But these 12 to 15 minutes that I was in this void, I learned that I was making a decision if I was going to go or stay.
You felt that in that.
Yeah.
Did it feel like 15 minutes, or did it feel like?
No, it felt like a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, it felt like a minute. So I was making this decision, was going to go and stay. And the void is individual to each of us. So we don't all have the same void. We don't have the same experience. And basically, the void can be obtained.
Is it scary?
No.
Okay. But you knew that you could choose. It sounds like you're saying you felt like you had to make a choice of whether to come back here to your body and this life,
Right.
or to be like to leave.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I came back.
Good for you. I'm happy you did.
Yeah. So was a lot of other people. I came back, and I was really at first. I went through several different emotions. One was like, what does that all mean? Like, what's my life about now?
Yeah.
What am I to?
That was inside the minute, or when you
No,
came back?
out when I came back.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so
seeking, looking for purpose.
looking for purpose. So I spent 3 days in the hospital. I actually had fun in the hospital. They had me on prednisone.
The good drugs.
Yeah, they had me on prednisone
All right.
and a patch. And so I couldn't sleep. So that Tuesday night, I was up and I was stretching, exercising. The nurse comes in and goes, Mr. Green, what are you doing? I go, I don't know, just really. I said, do you have a gym? Do you have a gym?
Motivated.
Yeah. I want to work out. Do you have a gym? And she goes, Mr. Green, get back in bed.
You're like, I'm ready to live.
Yeah, get back in bed. So, and then the other funny thing that happened was they had to scan my heart. And so, because they wanted to make sure that it wasn't damaged. But they told me I couldn't eat. So the dietitian that Tuesday didn't know, so she's bringing me a lunch. My wife is there, but I can't eat. So I said, hey, I can't eat. The food is pretty good. Why don't you have it? So I have this photo. She's actually in.
This might be the first time someone said, well, I've been in the hospital a long time, but the food is pretty good.
Yeah. Food was pretty good.
Yeah.
And so she gets in the bed. I'm out of the bed. And she's in the bed having my lunch. I have a photo of that. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we can put that up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's experience. And there's a lot more about the void that I'm learning. It's the void is, like I said before, it's individual. So
I feel like I might have been there once myself. I was in a bar fight in Amsterdam.
Okay.
And I thought it was going to be a 1-on-1. It ended up being a 5-on-1.
Ooh.
And I was just getting my ass handed to me. And
Wow.
Yeah, they cut off me. One guy had his hand on my mouth and my nose, so I couldn't breathe. And the last thing I saw was a bottle coming down on my face.
Wow.
And it hit, and it hurt like, it hurt. It was about the deepest hurt of my life. And it KO'd me on the spot.
Did you black out?
Yeah. Well, I blacked out, and so I had that. What you said, it felt what feels like you said, like it was totally black. And then all I saw was my son.
Wow.
I saw like just my son's face.
Okay.
He was like 3 years old at the time, 2.5. Okay. And I feel like, so I was like, well, two things that happened here. I'm gonna die on this, in this in this bar, and I'll never see my son again, but I got work to do. Like I got a son to raise and a daughter in time too, a brand newborn daughter. My son's face is what I saw. And I was like, all right, I got to do whatever I got to do to get the hell out of this.
Wow.
And I it was like the Iron Man suit rebooting.
Wow.
You know, and I opened my eyes, same situation. There were 3 guys punching me on every part of my body and at mouth, my nose, and I like got Hulk powers. And I just like lifted the dude off me. I threw him through a plate glass window, like on the bar. I jumped down after him, like stomped on him, and sprinted down the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So. It was so I can understand what you're saying about like wanting to live after that because and it did give me new purpose, and I really like, at least for like the next 10 years, I really like put my all into raising my son. And my daughter. But that's what motivated me to come back. It sounds like you found your motivation inside your heart, right? Because you made up your own mind.
So I'm curious though when you experienced probably the void, because the void is attainable. You don't have to die to go to get.
Yeah, maybe there's more peaceful ways to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be good.
And it's made up, and it's made up of our background. It's made up of who we are as people. So our belief system, how we were raised, all of those things make up the void. And the void is a multitude of rooms that you go to. So what I've experienced post
rooms.
Rooms that you go to. So what I've experienced post cardiac arrest thing is I've been experiencing these rooms.
So you've revisited this place?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, do you choose to go there or just like
that's still up for question.
Yeah.
Like, there's times when I'll go to sleep. I go, I really want to get to the void. I really want to see what else is out there. And I can't say that I will it to happen, or if it happens when I say it, or it just happens spontaneously. But it does happen. So my most recent visit was with a friend who I hadn't spoken to in a long time, about a month and a half ago. And I woke up and I called him right away. We briefly spoke. And then when I visited him, we were just hanging out. Very much like when I was in the blackness. There wasn't really anything other than we were just kind of floating.
This is in your mind?
No, this has actually happened
in a real world.
No, this happened while I was sleeping.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I called him right away. He was in South Carolina visiting, and he passed away 2 weeks ago. But I got to have that visit with him, like in one of these rooms. So I'm really experimenting and exploring what does this all mean.
Yeah, you have like a superpower.
Yeah. So this ability now.
So do you square that up with any kind of faith or spirituality, or like, because it sounds like I don't know, religious or magical or definitely spiritual experience.
Yeah. So okay. Before I was born, my parents were extremely religious.
Well, way back.
Extremely religious. There was a prophet who came to their church. And the prophet said, if you'll have a son, he'll have a hole in his right ear, which I do right here.
Okay.
And he will be extremely blessed. Right?
Yeah.
So that was an albatross for me for a long time. I never really understood what it really meant.
Did your parents tell you this story?
They told me the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had it was kind of a burden.
It's a burden.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean?
Oh God, I'm the chosen one.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it means you're gonna step up.
for most of my life, like that has been an albatross. It wasn't until the last 6 years, I really started to understand what it really meant for me.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean necessarily financial wealth. It didn't mean anything other than I was going to have these opportunities to explore the world differently and magically and spiritually.
Okay.
And so and to meet people like you and to exchange and have this great opportunity to grow and develop, because I have this diverse connection with the universe.
Yeah.
So
Our connection, our the way we were put together was definitely had a magical. I call it magical universe.
Right.
Like the universe helped orchestrate that.
yeah. So going back to what your question is, yeah, I had this whole rejection of faith and religion because my parents were so extreme.
Yeah, that's where you and I are like Ebony and Ivory, right? We're opposites. Like my parents were scientists who I couldn't get any religious answer, and you got all the religious
I
answers.
got too much.
Okay.
I mean, my dad was a very amazing guy. He was an amazing guy. And he went to work. He worked at a factory called Rockaway Metal in Inwood, New York. And he came home every night, every week for his check home. Was a perfect man, right? We grew up in the projects. I grew up in the Redfern projects.
So he wasn't like going out to the bars with
Right.
bros.
So, but I wanted that dad that was a drunk. I wanted that
Oh no,
dad.
you wanted the badass.
I wanted the badass dad. Right? So I was like,
You thought you did.
I thought I did. Yeah, but realized I had a great dad.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
great dad and very responsible dad, very loving dad. I remember
I feel you on this, Jerome. Like I was like, my dad, he's just straight. Like he just he provides for us. He's a good guy.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I was like, where's the brawler? Where's the
Yeah.
But again, as you, I was like, well, he raised me right.
Yeah.
He set an example.
Yeah. I had friends. Every friend I had didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
My dad was their dad. So when we went fishing, my dad took my friends fishing. But I couldn't see it then. I wanted to say, dude, I mean, I loved them.
Speaking of that, like, I don't know if any of your friends, like, went wayward, but, like, as you know, I was in prison for a long time.
Yeah.
The two things that I found were the major determinators of the other people in prison was their dad, they had no relationship with their fathers. Like, they don't even have memory of their fathers. Their fathers left before they were, like, 5 years old.
Right.
And drugs, specifically heroin and meth.
Yeah.
Like no dad raising you, and heroin or meth, going to prison. Like that.
Yeah.
So
So talk a little bit more about that, because what really attracted me to you was your story, and the reason I responded so quickly, I thought, "Dang, this is like we're connected, and our stories are connected because in prison near death." And I love what you said last week when we spoke. You can be a prisoner without being physically in prison. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's actually just my book here. Just if I do a quick pump, Pirate Soldier King.
Yeah.
And the dedication in it is I'll read it. Dedicated to the prisoners, both those behind physical bars and those trapped in the cages of their own making.
Yeah.
May each of you find the key to set yourselves free.
I love that.
Yeah.
Say it again. That's really
Okay.
like and like really own it because it's really powerful.
All right. This book, Pirate Soldier King, is dedicated to the prisoners, both those who are behind physical bars and those trapped in the cages of their own making.
Yeah.
May each of you find the key to set yourselves free.
Yeah. That's freedom. There's I like to say that freedom is something that you earn, right?
Yeah, that feels right. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but 100.
Yeah, and so a lot of times people want to be free because that maybe doesn't have a high cost to it. I was listening to CJ and Eric Thomas speak this morning, and they were talking about accountability, and they were talking about how they work with people that are accountable. People that just show up and they do their work.
Show up.
They're not looking for anything. They just want to show up and do their work. So you've done the work. So tell us a little bit about the work. Let's share your story. How did you come up with that title?
That title is 3 phases of my life. I'll back it up slightly just to say that, like, for more than 20 years, maybe 25 years, I was a tech startup founder.
Okay.
So I started a bunch of basically Silicon Valley startups, got them funded, grew them, sold them, etc.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was successful. I had some great companies and really great teams. My 4th startup, I was struggling to raise funds, and I really wanted to build the startup, and I just kind of told myself, if I don't raise the funds by this day, I'm going to rob a bank and get the money. And one of the craziest decisions I ever made in my life, but that's where my head was at the time.
But okay, why was that your plan? Why did you come up with that? I'm very curious about.
I mean, I had my reasons. I had a lot of contempt for the banks as a structure. This was quite some time actually after 2008, but the 2008 where the banks had essentially stolen from the American people with the mortgage crisis. Right. They intentionally financed bad mortgages and resold them and resold them and resold them. And the federal government essentially gave the banks more than $1 trillion, the TARP fund, to save them, to save the U.S. financial system. Well, where did that money come from? You and me. Right. Like, it came from all of us. Right. Like, it came from the taxpayers. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I did the calculation. It ended up being like pretty much every grown, citizen over 18 in the U.S. gave the banks more than $10,000 that year of our own money. Money being paid in taxes. And the same year, the top 1,000 executives of the banks all got 7-figure bonuses. Cash bonuses of more than $10 million for all the hard work they did to save the banks. And I'm like, wow. That's theft. Yeah. And I got myself very worked up and angry about it. So that doesn't justify it in any way, shape, or form. And that's just part of the headset I was in. And I was like, I've had successful businesses under my belt. Like, I know how to build a business, and my business make the world a better place. So how is it that these people are getting 7-figure bonuses, and I can't raise a simple, couple $100,000 to kickstart a new company? Right. That was just my anger acting out, I have to say. So I end up robbing the banks. And
now, interestingly, if I recall, you didn't use a gun or a note.
No.
What did you do? How did you do this?
It's a secret. I did go into the banks. I did, have full like body armor on, but no gun. It's pretty important to me that I kind of felt if I went in there and someone pulled a gun on me, either like a do-gooder or someone with a concealed carry permit or an undercover or just like a guard, I was just either going to run or hit the deck. Like I was like, in no way, shape, or form would I threaten or take a human life for money. Right. Like that was my equation. So I was, and God blessed me in that way where I never had any confrontations whatsoever. I just got the money and walked out, and it worked out. It worked out until I got, until the FBI took me down. So, yeah.
And okay, so you did 6 years.
I did, I did a 6-month bid and then a 5.5-year bid. So
Okay. And I'm very curious. Was your sentence reduced because you didn't do an armed robbery, or was it considered an armed robbery?
That's a little technical. Not really.
Okay.
My sentence was reduced mostly because my family and my girlfriend at the time all showed up and spoke to the federal judge. An even broader segment, I think 20 people wrote letters on my behalf. And for the most part, I was a first-time offender. So there's a sentencing table, and my criminal history was right in the middle. It wasn't extreme, and it wasn't low. So, and because I pled guilty.
Okay.
My intention when I first got in, I was so angry. I was like, no, I'm going to take it to trial. I'm going to tell the judge and the people what's up. And I was angry. And after I finally kind of came to my senses, and I pled guilty on the first one. Got a decent sentence. I was in 2 separate federal districts.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I have a question. Curious about. So someone who was to read your book.
Yes.
What problems do you solve for them? Or what questions do you answer for them?
Thank you. Great question. The pirate part of the book, back to your first question, is about what my life of crime and robbing banks.
Okay.
And how I kind of got to that place. The soldier part is about being in prison and being part of a prison gang and just having to carry a knife around the yard and do the things that you do in prison. Mm-hmm. the answer to your question is the third part, which is king, which is two parts. One is acknowledging the king above, who really saved my life in prison. God, Yahweh, Yeshua, whatever you want to call it, but I call it Yeshua, which is Jesus' name, or what his parents called him. And the humility that comes from that, and a lot of people call him the servant king. So before I went to prison, I was all about what I can get out of the world. I was a CEO, and I was like building companies and maximizing profit, and just trying to have my $10 million and knock stuff out of the park and provide for my family, and that was it. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was a good person, and like that was my focus. And when my transformation on the inside, coming to Jesus was really about switching that, completely flipping that script and being like, hey, like God, how can I serve you? And in retrospect, how can I serve the people, like all the people? How can my life be of service and make the world a better place? So that's the king part, and I feel there's practical lessons in the soldier part, which like I feel like I learned stuff in prison that really helps. Like I think we both coach CEOs, right?
Yeah.
So I coach startup CEOs, and I'm like giving them street smart advice on how to navigate. Like, here's how you deal with investors. Here's how you push sales first. Stuff that is just from the trenches, which is why I like our podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're not pulling punches. They're like this. Yeah. And then those lessons are kind of embedded in the stories, and then the king part is just is the path to redemption, and it's an ongoing path. In no way will say that I'm there, but it's a goal and aspiration, and it's the path I'm on currently. Right. So yeah, how to serve, how to lead a life of service, and bring you a life of joy.
Right. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm mishearing this, is that in some ways prison provided you with an upgrade.
100%. Yes. So I did not go to college. I mean, I took some classes, but I was on the path to get like a bachelor's and then a PhD, just like my parents, and I bolted on that and started a business instead. And I used to joke around saying, "Yeah, I got my master's from the School of Hard Knocks." Well, 6 years in the feds, I got my PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. Right. So yeah, it was I felt privileged to be there, quite honestly. Like it was not on my map as a teenager or anything. Right. So yeah, it was a journey, it was a passage, and I in certain ways cherish it.
Yeah. I can feel that. I can feel that.
I needed it. I was a train wreck before it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I've been there. Yeah.
So it sounds like both of us, like, I mean, yours was 12 to 15 minutes and mine was 6 years, but we it doesn't matter. Like, it did what it needed to in our lives, right? To get the other side and then maybe be a different or new person on the other side.
Yeah. I've been reflecting on this for myself. And so I've identified several times where I've had near-death experiences differently, right? So when I was 5 years old, I fell down a flight of stairs, like big stairs, and landed on my feet.
Nice. Dexterity plus 10.
Right, landed on my feet. So that kind of stayed with me. Like, I've always landed on my feet, which was good and bad. Because
what's bad?
Because the bad was I've always felt like I could get away with anything.
Invincibility.
Yeah,
me too.
And I'm gonna land on my feet.
Do you still have 10 fingers, 10 toes?
Yeah, still do.
And both our heads are attached to our bodies.
Yeah. So I think it's worked out well.
Yeah.
And a crazy story is in my rebellious stage, like when I was like post rejecting the whole religion thing, between my ages of 20 and 33. And this was wild. And so then I decided my identity was going to be as a drug dealer. Right? I could
And you dealt?
And yeah, I dealt, right? But it was very, very like low key deal. I was dealing with people that were like professionals and things like that.
Right, okay.
I would go. I was working
Safe clientele.
safe clientele. Yeah, I didn't deal on the street. I didn't deal rock or anything like that.
Good, yeah.
But I'm heading home, so I would pick up my 2 ounces in New York, and I was heading home to New Jersey, and I was working at a university at the time, and I had a friend with me, and we're driving, and we're about a half a mile from my apartment, and cops come.
For you?
Yeah, and I got 2 ounces of cocaine,
Right.
and so the woman I'm with, she's freaking out. I go, you need to chill. You need to chill. So I put the 2 ounces of cocaine under the car, and I don't even know where this came from. I know I'm protected. If I didn't know then, I know now.
Right.
And so
You just put it under the floor mat.
yeah, under the phone.
No stash area or anything.
No. And so when the cop comes in the door, and he goes, I give him my license, which was expired, but this is in the 80s, so there's no computer.
Right.
Figure it out. And I give him my faculty card.
Okay.
And he looks and he goes, okay, Mr. Green, I stopped you because your taillight's out. How stupid am I? I'm driving with 2 ounces of
This is called wanting to get caught.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
2 ounces of cocaine with that taillight out.
When you say, like, how was I caught? The same
Yeah,
thing. Like, at
yeah.
some point, you want to get caught.
Yeah.
So you were, yeah. So how did it, so you had that near-death experience.
Yeah. And so he says, just get that taillight fixed.
No warning, no ticket, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, you're blessed.
Nothing.
For real.
And so he was a white cop, black guy.
Yep. In the 80s.
In the 80s, right? During Reagan. Right? During Reagan.
It could have gone all kind of
It could have been all kinds of sideways. And the only thing, I'd have got years, but because it wasn't rock, I probably wouldn't have got as much because rock was.
Well, Marion Barry wanted to rock at the time.
Yeah. So here I am, white cop, black guy, white woman. All kinds of bad things could go wrong.
Yes.
But meanwhile, somehow I got this protection.
So after that, did you again feel invincible, or did you feel like, okay, that was a warning, I'm going to stop dealing? Or,
No.
no, okay. I feel you. Yeah. When I was doing the bank robberies, I had very close calls too, where like detectives would come up to me with the cash, and I'd be like, "You didn't bust me? More!"
Yeah.
So you still hadn't got the lesson. Okay, yeah.
And so, I stopped dealing when I was at an ounce. About a year later, I was supposed to go in Manhattan, high rise.
So what? An ounce of coke? What's that? I mean, 2 ounces of coke. That's not a whole lot, right?
No, it's like it was like at that time, it was going for $2,500 an ounce.
Okay.
So $5,000.
All right.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah. But
Wow.
we were cutting it, right?
Of course.
And so now you got
Oh, so that was uncut.
uncut.
Nice. Okay.
This is pure Colombian. I mean, it's yellow.
Mm-hmm.
It's yellow. It's not white because people.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So pure coke is yellow.
Huh.
Yeah. It's like an off white. It becomes white because it gets cut so many times. So we were cutting an ounce and making an ounce into 3 ounces.
Right.
Right. So anyway, a year later, I'm supposed to be delivering this ounce to this place in Manhattan. First time I didn't really know who I was going to. So I walk in the building, go by the doorman, and I go, I think I need a gun. And I go, and then this other voice said, well, if you need a gun, you need to get the F out of here. Because this is not you. And so that's when I stopped dealing with it. I didn't stop using. I stopped using.
Well, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. But so honestly, in that moment, so because you were like, because I mean, I think we know if you're packing heat, you have to be prepared to use it.
Exactly.
And if you have any brain, using it means killing somebody. It's not you didn't be shooting in the leg. Well, that's right. So it escalates very quickly.
Exactly.
So you made that because maybe that's why you asked me about whether I carried a gun to the bank.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had the same decision. I was like, you know what? Nothing's worth my life.
No,
and
exactly.
another fool with a gun you don't know where stuff's going.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. And then, you know, how I stopped totally was I met.
I'm happy you made that decision, Jerome. Like, for
so
real.
am I. that was one of the near-death experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
So finally, I stopped in 1984. Yeah, right at the Olympics, 1984, 85. I met my wife now, Gail, and she was in California. I was in New York. We met. We had a great exchange. I came back to New York. My friend.
Where in New York were you?
I was actually living in Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay.
At this time.
Okay.
So my friend picks me up from the airport, and we go back to my place, and we start doing coke, he and I. And I'm watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay, that's right. I didn't expect that, but okay.
I'm watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I'm going.
It's Jack Nicholson, right?
Jack Nicholson, yeah. And I'm going, wait a minute. I'm watching my life, and like this is my life. So I tell my friend, I go, hey man, I'm going to go in the other room with it.
For those who don't know, that movie is about an asylum.
Yeah,
a crazy lunatic asylum. Yeah.
Prison.
Well, yeah, it's a different form of prison for sure. You're locked in.
Yeah.
They drug you. Yeah.
So to your point, at that moment I realized that I had imprisoned myself.
Nice. Oh. Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
That's my gratitude alarm.
Yeah, okay.
So I will actually use this opportunity. It's almost 11:11 to say I have deep gratitude for you for reaching out and making the journey here and us connecting and sharing stories.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
So do I. Mutual. So back to your point, I realized that I had imprisoned myself. I'm sitting on the couch in my living room. A freaking screen. I visualized a screen dropping down with a really clear direction. It said, get a pad and you try to stop using, but this is how you're going to do it. You're going to stop using for the next hour, for the next 2 hours. And for that whole year, I just basically, it kept increasing. And I had to disengage from all of my friends. So I didn't go to any parties, I didn't go to any weddings, any bachelor parties. It was just me and Gail and working out and doing work, and I went through this whole journey.
So back it up a second. Nick, when you said the screen came down and it said go for an hour without using, that was like God talking, or?
It was definitely a spiritual intervention.
So you got instruction.
I got clear instruction. There was no vagueness in it.
Yeah.
Very clear, very commanding, and very compassionate.
I mean, you are touched, clearly, in an amazing way.
Yeah,
you have not just a near-death experience, but it's been happening your whole life.
My whole life. So then I got a pad, and I just started writing, I will stop using the. And then it said, okay, next hour. And then when you wake up, right, so I kept this journal for a year. And in this journal, my whole story was there. It was like, and that's how I stopped. And that's how I found my way out of prison.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The dog likes the story too. Anyway, down. Good.
There you go.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to transition. Yeah. I do want to thank Holy Water, who's they sponsor Pirate Soldier King.
Okay.
And it's a great brand. It's canned water, and it is made for like really good vibes.
Yeah. So I'm curious on what's next for you. I mean, what are you? I know you do coaching, but I feel like you're on this journey, this path, this discovery, this. So talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I don't know what the universe has in store or God has in store, because that's usually a pleasant surprise. Mm-hmm. All I know is that I'm doing the work. The book will be published within 30 days.
Okay.
So that'll be out there for people to read. I'm committed to producing this podcast and kind of getting the oral tradition or the story out. And my co-host Grace Ann, she is good at extracting the wisdom from the stories,
right.
Which I haven't totally done yet, but she kind of pushes me in that direction. And along those lines, we're kind of getting a structure of like, what is the pirate, soldier, king lifestyle? Like those are three archetype journeys that many people go through in their own way.
Right.
You know, from mischief to discipline to service.
Right.
So we're working on kind of a structure of how to do that. And then, as you said, I coach mostly startup executives on how to take these principles and apply it to actually growing their business.
Right.
Which I have a ton of experience at. So I have that hybrid experience of like a lot of street sense and common sense from the crime and prison, and then 20 years of building startups on my own. So or with great teams, I should say.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and how about yourself? What is so near death to life?
Near death to life. That's like I've fluctuated back and forth on that title, but last Friday was important for some reasons, because CJ said something. Besides meeting you, CJ said something about sticking to a theme, and so I was fluctuating on different themes and different titles, and I really left that session last Friday going, my story is near death to life, and so that's really what I'm focusing on. I use it in my executive coaching. I'm really trying to help people. I was working with a client the other day, and she was lost because she was a CEO of her own company, but then she had to dissolve the company. And she was like, well, what do I, when I go to social events, how do I don't do that anymore. So then I said, share with them not what you do, but who you are. She's like, wow, I've never.
That's it right there. That's the juice. Yeah, your identity.
Yeah. So what I work with people on, what I love working with people on, is their identity, because I've spent so much time finding my own, and my own experience, and so I. Really
that sounds like a further conversation with us, because I'd love to have you help me explore that.
Yeah. So identity is really important, and I work on a lot of. Interestingly enough, most of my clients are women. Yeah, women, and it's all about identity in the boardroom. Identity, how they go in and how they see themselves, and how they have to try to feel that they have to prove themselves. And so I work with that. So that's what I enjoy doing. The podcast. I want to write a book on near death to life. So I'm working on that, and I want to do some public speaking.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so it sounds like we have like parallel paths.
Yeah. So definitely do this again.
Yes.
And again.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on your podcast, inviting me.
Thank you for having me on yours.
Absolutely.
The cross part.
Yes. I'll give you a high five.
Yeah. Great.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jerome,
Yeah.
and thank you to Near Death to Life.
Yep.
And onward.
Yep.
And we'll see you. These are every Tuesday for Pirate Soldier King. I don't know what your frequency is.
Mine is every 2 weeks on Wednesdays.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the podcast, taking the time out of your day to do that. Please drop your comments, what you liked or disliked, or you have a different viewpoint. I really look forward to seeing those comments, and I will get back to you. And take time, if you can, to subscribe to my channel, Near Death to Life. Have a great day.